The 2026 NHL All-Star Game has been taken away from the New York Islanders. We'll discuss the impact of this for the franchise and the season ticket holders, and a lot more coming up on today's Locked On Islanders podcast.
Your Locked On Islanders, your daily podcast on the New York Islanders. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome, everybody, to the Wednesday edition of the Locked On Islanders podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I want to thank everyone who makes Locked On Islanders your first listen every day. Don't forget to subscribe on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts so you get new episodes as soon as they drop. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new FanDuel customers can get $250 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. I'm Gil Martin. I've been covering the New York Islanders for almost 2 decades, and I wrote the book Ice Wars on the history of the Islanders' rivalry with the Rangers from 1972 until the modern era. So glad you could join us today to talk a little Islanders hockey, and an eventful Tuesday for the Islanders, but not all of the news particularly good. It was made official by the National Hockey League on Tuesday that there will not be a 2026 NHL All-Star Game. Why does that matter? Well, for one thing, the New York Islanders were scheduled to host that game. They have not hosted an All-Star Game since the early 80s. Gary Bettman, NHL commissioner, basically said, we'll have an event at UBS before we go to the Olympics, but then we'll do something that's more focused on a major hockey event for the following year. We have a little bit of time to finalize what we're doing. Okay, what does this mean? Well, first of all, there will be some kind of event, but it will not be a game, and it will not be a direct hockey event at UBS Arena. And we don't know when and if the Islanders will actually get to host an All-Star Game. And part of this dates back to the Four Nations tournament, which was exciting, intense, great hockey. And I think it exceeded everybody's expectations. But the problem is, as a result of that, the All-Star Game just doesn't live up to it. There is a problem with All-Star Games, not just in hockey, but really in all sports, because nowadays, with the players making as much money as they make, they don't want to get hurt. There's no physicality in an All-Star Game. It is essentially 3-on-3 shinny, where checking is optional. Goaltending is almost impossible to do well. And it's literally just a bunch of very talented hockey players kind of messing around on the ice. And, you know, maybe showing off a little, trying to have a little fun, but it is not hockey. And from an Islanders perspective now, here's the issue. The way the Islanders played this past season and the way the team was put together by the now departed Lou Lamoriello, there was an issue for Islanders fans that many of them grew apathetic and got fed up with the team's lack of direction, the failure to change and retool this roster to keep the core in place even after 3 and now 4 seasons of not winning a playoff series. The aging roster with not a lot of prospects, the poor performances, the blown leads, all of that. And then the Islanders raising season ticket prices by roughly 12%. There were a lot of fans who did not renew or were very reluctant to renew their season tickets this year. And one thing the Islanders were trying to do was to use the fact that if you're a season ticket holder, you could get All-Star game tickets as incentive for people to renew their season ticket and partial plan packages. Well, that incentive is now gone. And it certainly doesn't help the Islanders in their ticket drive. It certainly has to be a big disappointment for season ticket holders who bought or renewed with the assumption that, hey, there's going to be an All-Star game and I'm going to be able to go. Well, not so simple now. And we don't know what this event to send the players off to the Olympics is going to be. But here's the deal from an Islanders perspective. And this event could be something very good. More than likely, it's going to be something, I'm not going to say bad, but it's going to be something tangentially related to hockey, not a game. We could see, different athletic events or competitions or, but it could be something as silly as, what the NFL does with flag football or tug of war, or, it could be, if you're old enough to remember, Superstars on ABC way back in the day, where the best athletes from different sports would compete for that honor. So, of best athlete, and they'll run different competitions. All of that is possible, but none of it is the same as an All-Star game. So here's what I am proposing to sort of make amends for Islander fans and the Islanders organization, who, like most NHL teams, you get a new arena, you get to host one of these major events like an All-Star game or a draft or something like that. Here's the deal. Number one, All-Star games in any league are now passé. The original need for them, or the big reason for them, is no longer applicable. You can watch all the best players from all around the league almost at any time nowadays. Unlike 30, 40 years ago, when maybe there was one out-of-town game a week that you would get, if that. And so, getting to see Wayne Gretzky or, Marcel Dion or Guy Lafleur didn't happen all that often. So seeing all the best players on the ice together at the same time was a much bigger deal, because the players made less money and there was more of a rivalry at stake, whether it was East versus West, Campbell versus Wales Conference, whatever the case may have been. The games were more intense. They meant more. All of those reasons are gone. So now, Four Nations worked really, really well. And I would love to see Four Nations or some variation of it be what the NHL does instead of an All-Star game, except during Olympic years where they just go to the Olympics. To me, that would be ideal. But if they resume All-Star games, Long Island should host the next one, whenever that's going to be. If there is another Four Nations tournament and there is no All-Star game, how about Long Island and the Islanders are one of the hosts for the next Four Nations tournament? Usually there was an American city and a Canadian city, Boston and Montreal last time around. How about the New York metropolitan area, where you've got three arenas in a very short proximity to each other? You got The Rock in Newark. You've got Madison Square Garden. You've got the Islanders' home arena in Elmont. All of that would really go over well to host a Four Nations tournament. Either way, whether it's a future, and I mean very soon in the future, All-Star game, or a Four Nations tournament, or a draft, the Islanders organization should be getting some kind of major event from the league beyond whatever this send-off before the Olympics is going to be. And look, the Islanders are kind of getting the short end of the stick here. I understand why there should not be an All-Star game. I don't know why they scheduled an All-Star game during an Olympic year to begin with. That doesn't make a lot of sense. But here we are, and you just have to hope that the Islanders will get some kind of event in the future beyond whatever this is going to be, and that it's something that season ticket holders can benefit from, because all of a sudden the rug was pulled out from under Islanders season ticket holders. Bad enough that the parking situation is as bad as it is, bad enough about the traffic and congestion, bad enough about the prices for parking and the prices for food and drink at the arena, bad enough that season ticket holders have difficulty reselling their tickets because the secondary market is so bad because the Islanders have struggled on the ice. It's time for Islander season ticket holders to benefit, to gain something more. And I would like to see, whether it's an All-Star game or a Four Nations tournament or a draft or a combination of maybe those events, for the Islanders organization to benefit from this taking away of the All-Star game and getting some kind of event. The Islanders have not hosted an All-Star game since the dynasty years. It is time, and hopefully it will happen. And you know, the thing that bothers me most, when we saw the announcement made by Brian Trottier and I believe it was Bobby Nystrom making the announcement, yes, the Islanders will be getting the All-Star game, and now they're not getting it. It's not a good look. It's upsetting, and hopefully it changes really soon. All right, we have got more to get to. Obviously, the Islanders GM search is ongoing. We'll discuss some specific candidates that could be out there for the Islanders. Again, it's going to take a while. We'll have that. Plus, for our Islanders birthday of the day, a defensive defenseman, a physical defensive defenseman who was with the Islanders from the late 80s through the year 2000, and then he briefly played for the Rangers. Let's see if you can guess who this fan favorite was. All that and more on today's Locked On Islanders podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by your friends at FanDuel. The NBA playoffs are here, and FanDuel is giving new customers an incredible way to get in on the action. Right now, when you join FanDuel and place your first $5 bet, you'll get $250 in bonus bets if that first bet wins. That's right, $250 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. I love how FanDuel makes betting so easy, whether it's picking my favorite team or diving into player props. From three-pointers to steals to assists, FanDuel has so many ways to bet your favorite player props. Plus, after the game tips off, you can even combine live prop bets into a same-game parlay for a chance to win big. So don't miss out. Head to FanDuel.com and claim your $250 in bonus bets today. Again, FanDuel.com to claim your $250 in bonus bets today. Check it out. Everydayers, you'll remember just yesterday, we discussed different things that are holding up the Islanders GM search, and to sort of lower expectations a little bit. That, you know, yeah, the Islanders want to get a GM soon, but they are not going to get, you're not going to rush into a decision, and part of it is due to the fact that a lot of the candidates are employed by teams, whether they're as assistant GMs or GMs, that are still in the playoffs, and you can't interview candidates until they're out of the playoffs because, you know, there's a potential conflict of interest there. NHL rule. But I did want to at least touch on some potential candidates. Not that any of these guys are shoo-ins or favorites, but these are names that are out there that have been bandied about and that have been on various lists of possible candidates to fill the GM job. And I'm going to start with, right now, Jarmo Kekalainen. And basically, worked as Blue Jackets GM, lasted a decade, had a solid draft record, including Zach Werenski. And again, he's made some really good trades over the years. Getting Artemi Panarin and Tyler Mott in exchange for Anton Forsberg and Brandon Saad. There was Seth Jones for Ryan Johansson. There were, some big wins in the trade situation. And, right now, Kekalainen, still the only European-born, he's Finnish, GM ever in NHL history. I think he would be an interesting candidate for the GM position. Also out there, and I'm not sure how Islander fans would feel about this, but Ken Holland, 69 years old, built or helped build the Red Wings dynasty, was with them from 1997 through 2019, is now with the Oilers. It would be interesting to see if he comes back, but maybe for some people, an old timer at 69, is it too Lou Lamoriello-like to hire Ken Holland? I don't know. We have to see. Mark Bergevin, former GM of the Canadiens, now assistant GM with the Kings. And, if Rob Blake, the current Kings GM, decides to retire or step down, that would maybe Bergeron goes to the Kings, but, he played for the Islanders for a couple of years. Be interesting to see if he would be a candidate for the Islanders spot. Matthew Darche, we mentioned him yesterday, and again, he's been a finalist a number of times. Whether or not he would basically get the job, he's going to get a job somewhere. But would the Islanders go with the 49-year-old? That remains to be seen. Everydayers, yesterday on the show, we mentioned Kate Madigan, who, according to published reports, is going to get an interview for this job. Joined the Devils organization in 2017, is now an assistant GM there. We'll see whether or not she is going to get the job. Brandon Pridham, 11 years in the Maple Leafs organization. Before that, worked in Central Scouting. Has been a special assistant and an assistant GM in Toronto, and kind of concentrated on free agency and trade deadline acquisitions. Having a guy who specializes in free agency might just help the Islanders. It's something the Islanders have never been particularly good at. So, maybe that's a reason for consideration. How about Kevin McDonald? Now, I know, was formerly with the Rangers communications department, now an assistant GM in Colorado. He could help build the prospect pool because he's very good at finding talent. That's another option. How about Ryan Martin, an assistant GM for 10 years in Detroit, and then with the Rangers? I know the Rangers and Detroit has struggled. We know that too. But here's a guy who's moving up the chain, was the GM of the Hartford Wolfpack of the AHL, worked with Team USA at the 2022 World Championships. There's a guy with some experience, even if he was, affiliated with the Rangers. And look, let's face it, Neil Smith he was first a scout with the Islanders, then GM with the Rangers, briefly GM with the Islanders before that kind of blew up, but after 90 days or so. But, when you're hiring GMs, it's not quite the same where, oh, no, we don't want that guy. He was a Ranger or a Flyer or a Devil. Doesn't work that way. And then last on this list, and again, these are not in any particular order, but how about Kevin Weeks? I'd love to see it. I've interviewed Kevin Weeks before. He's highly intelligent, plugged in, knows the league backwards and forward, played for the Islanders and the Rangers and the Devils for that matter. Well connected around the league, smart guy, knows the game. Maybe he's better suited to be the president of the team rather than the GM, but overall, I would love to see him become a part of the Islanders organization to help this team in a new direction. So those are 8 or 9 candidates that I think are out there. Feel free, if you have another suggestion, send an email or a comment and let us know what you're thinking and who you think would be a good candidate. There are a number of them out there, but again, the Islanders going to wait until the candidates they want are available to interview. So I don't expect a hiring of a GM or even a president necessarily in the next few days. It's going to take a few weeks for this interview process to play out. The NHL Draft Lottery is set. Finally, we know when it's going to be, and we'll talk about that and the Islanders' chances in it. Plus, we'll have our Islanders' birthday of the day. All that and more still to come on today's Locked On Islanders podcast. Mark your calendars, Islanders fans. Mark your calendars now, because the NHL has announced that the draft lottery is set. It will be on Monday, May 5th. The time is yet to be announced, but usually it's right before a game. But right now, at least, there are no games scheduled. And it could be the first night of round 2. Round 1 will end by this Sunday at the latest. So we'll see, but usually it would be like 7 o'clock Eastern or 6:45 or 6:30 Eastern time. But here we go. The Islanders right now still in the hunt for that first pick, even if it is just a 3.5% chance of winning. Islanders right now have the 10th best odds of winning the lottery. Again, 3.5%. So they can move all the way up to 1, or they can fall back to 11th or 12th. But hopefully, the Islanders can be a top 10 draft pick team. I'd love to see them get to pick even better, move up and get maybe the top pick or the second pick. It would be a great way to kick things off for a new general manager. But we are now less than a week away from the draft lottery. And if the Islanders could somehow win the lottery or even get the number 2 or 3 pick, boy, this would change the trajectory of a lot of things for this franchise. We know the team historically does not sign big ticket free agents. So in order to get this event and the draft lottery for this, a win and to move on up, that would be huge. I still have my eye on James Higgins, the Long Island native, who is probably going to be one of the 3 or 4 top picks in this draft. But boy, it would really change things for the Islanders if they could get one of those top picks. And again, this is the NHL. This is not the NBA. This is not the NFL. Maybe 2 or 3 first-round picks play the year they're drafted. And it is a big deal if you get a player who can do that. even if the Islanders do win the lottery and move up to one of the first few picks, it is unlikely that whoever they pick will be ready to play and make a major contribution in year one. Even guys who are considered once in a generation talents, a Connor Bedard. You know, Connor Bedard did well his rookie year, but, is he an all-star at this point? Is he a 30-goal scorer yet? No. He is a young, talented player who flashes his ability, but can't yet get the job done consistently, because most 18-year-old kids need to add strength, need to figure out and adjust to life in the NHL. There is a huge gap between playing in juniors and playing in the NHL, or playing in college and playing in the NHL. In the NHL, the players are bigger, they're faster, they are smarter, more skilled, they are stronger. And, there are moves that you can make in juniors that'll work 75, 80% of the time, where you'll fake out the defenseman or just be too fast for the defenseman, and you'll get that great scoring opportunity. And if it works 8 times out of 10 in juniors and 6 times out of 10 in college and 4 or 5 times in the AHL, it may work once or twice in the NHL. And so you've got to have a plan B. And you can't just rely on, I'm the fastest guy or I'm the most skilled guy and I can just stick handle around everybody. There's a reason that those plays end up on highlight reels. It's because they don't happen that often. So even if the Islanders win the draft lottery, don't expect whoever they pick to necessarily play this fall on the island. And if they do play, to all of a sudden be an all-star caliber player right away. That being said, it could really help speed up the retool that this organization is going to have to go through, rather. And you want to see more young talent, more skilled, offensive-minded players coming through the Islanders pipeline. You get one of those top picks, you add Cole Yzerman in a year or two after this year, you add Danny Nelson, you add, all of these guys who are a couple of years away. All of a sudden, the cupboard isn't so bare anymore. It takes a little time, but winning the lottery could definitely speed up the retool process for the New York Islanders. All right, time now for our Islanders birthday of the day. And today is the 57th birthday of former Islanders defenseman Rich Pilon. The native of Saskatoon, Saskatchewan, a 7th-round pick of the Islanders back in 1986, made his debut with the Isles in 88-89 and stayed with the team through the 1999-2000 season. He was then waived, picked up by the Rangers, played for them for 2 seasons, and finished his career with a brief stint with the Blues. Pilon was a physical guy. He had 291 penalty minutes in 1997-98. That was his career high. Had 242 penalty minutes as a rookie. Never scored more than 1 goal in any season as an Islander. Never had more than 14 points in any season in his career. In fact, in 631 career NHL games, Rich Pilon scored 8 goals, had 77 points, and 1,745 penalty minutes. He had 15 career NHL playoff games, all of them coming during the Islanders' 1993 run to the conference final. And he was a fan favorite. He stood up for his teammates. He wasn't afraid to hit anybody out there on the ice. Rich Pilon was a beloved New York Islander. The Islanders could use a player like him nowadays. One of his better games as an Islander, how about January 21st, 1989, the Minnesota North Stars invade the Nassau Coliseum. John Casey, the goalie for the North Stars. Kelly Rudy, the goalie for the New York Islanders. And this was a wild game, a game that saw 14 goals scored. And with the Islanders behind 1-0 early in the game, our Islanders' birthday of the day, Rich Pilon, set up Pat LaFontaine for the game-tying goal. Brad Delgarno with the other assist. That made it 1-1. And then later on in the game, early in the third period, with the Islanders up 4-3, Pilon and Derek King set up Pat LaFontaine again. That gives the Islanders a 2-goal lead in a game they go on to win 8-6. Kari Taco eventually replaces John Casey. Kelly Rudy, 38 saves to get the win for Rich Pilon in this game. 2 assists. He's a +3. He had 1 shot on goal, 7 penalty minutes. That includes an instigator penalty and a fight. He went toe-to-toe with Brian McClellan midway through the hockey game in the second period. Only thing keeping him from the Gordie Howe hat trick was a goal. Rich Pilon, a physical, rugged defenseman and a fan favorite. He is our Islanders' birthday of the day. Thank you for making Locked On Islanders your first listen today. For your second listen, check out the all-new Locked On NHL Game Night. Every game, every night until a Stanley Cup champion is crowned. Get local analysis on a national scale. Find NHL Game Night on Locked On NHL on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. It's part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. If you have a question, a comment, maybe a topic you'd like us to discuss on a future episode, send us an email to lockedonislanders@gmail.com. And if you leave your first name and where you're from, we're happy to mention you on the show when we discuss whatever's on your mind. You could follow the show on X at Locked On Isles. You could follow me, Gil Martin, on X at Ice Wars, NYR, VSNYI. We'll keep you up to date on all things Islanders throughout this important and busy offseason. And it's great to talk a little Islanders hockey with you, game time or anytime. Everydayers, we are back tomorrow. We'll have the latest Islanders news, notes, and happenings, and we'll do our mailbag episode. So last chance to get those mailbag questions in, and we will answer them and discuss whatever it is that's on your minds as this offseason continues. Until then, have a great day, everybody. Stay safe, and of course, let's go Islanders.